Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This time I have recorded myself doing an entire encounter for my mod, the Second Invasion. I'm working on the Super Gore Nest level at the moment, and there's one encounter that I think ought to be relatively straightforward, but I wanted to show you how I do it from beginning to end so that you can have a better idea of how to do this kind of thing yourself. In the last video I showed you how to get Notepad++ up and running and how to edit and change one demon in one encounter, but this time I'm going to be making new spawn locations and putting in lots and lots of demons, and so it's basically to show you how to put together many of the things that you learnt, but there's also going to be a lot of new things as well. I'm going to be adding music, doing respawnings as well, like maintain spawns like for fodder demons, and there'll be various wait functions being used as well. Anyway, let's get started. So you can see here, these are my entities files, and these are the backups I've made so far. Like, I've completed encounters 1 to 12 so far. So the encounter I'm going to be changing is when you get the chain gun in the Super Gore Nest. You remember, you get the chain gun and then you fall through the floor and you come face to face with a Dread Knight. You know, I always kind of felt that encounter was a poor introduction to the chain gun because, well, I don't know about you, but I never used the chain gun against a Dread Knight. I go to the rocket launcher instead. So I'm going to be changing it to do something else. You can see here on the right is my plan. Like, here I've got the encounter number 14 and a little description to remind me of what it is. It's the Dread Knight after the chain gun. This is the name of the encounter, which I already got before. And here, not in bold, is just my notes of what enemies are currently in the encounter. In blue are the changes I want to make, is the idea. So this is what I have in mind. Add lots of respawning machine gun or heavy cannon ammo to encourage the use of the chain gun. And heavy battle music is what I have in mind. Then I was thinking of basically waves. I say wave 1 here, but I don't bother later on. I'm thinking a swarm of imps come at you, and when there's some imps left, then a swarm of gargoyles. When there's some of them left, then a swarm of soldiers. When there's some of all the fodders left, then we could have some heavy demons with some cue balls lined up for you to shoot them. And the heavy demons, there could be pinkies, mancubus, spiders, dread knights, hell knights, and this kind of thing. Make it all happen fast without any break, so it keeps you on top of it. Once you're finished killing everything, music should cool down. That's what I have in mind. So at the moment I am starting Doom Eternal so that I can get to the encounter. So when I'm testing out my mods, I like to use a save file where I have all the guns and all the cheats, so then I can have infinite ammo and not have to worry about that. And then I can use the BFG or the Unmaker to clear out rooms of demons I don't care about to get to the encounter I want to, is what I do, and that's what I'm doing here. Another trick then is to use God mode, so then you won't be affected by the demons. Also, no clip is useful for getting through some areas where you might be stuck. No clip is also really useful for getting spawn points for flying demons, like for cacodemons or pain elementals. Okay, so now I've got to the point just before the encounter I want to edit. Remember, I'm changing the encounter when you get the chain gun, which is right down there. So I go back into Entity Hero, and I go find the encounter. I have the name already. So you can see that I got the right encounter, because in this encounter there's not much going on. There's just one Dread Knight and that's it. The best way to handle encounters then, in my opinion, is to do things backwards. You know, when I first started editing levels, what I did was I started straight away with trying to edit the encounter, but really what you need to start with are the target spawn points, like with adding in the ammo or the spawn location for this swarm of imps and the gargoyles and everything. Then you can put those target spawns into spawn groups, makes it easier to handle them. And once you've done that, then you can consider changing the encounter. But you know, making the target spawns and the spawn groups, that takes up a lot of time. Like the majority of the time is doing all that. And before all that, you have to plan them as well. You have to take down the locations from the game using MH spawn info. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. So the way I like to do that is that I use a table in my Word document. I have the name of the target spawn and the group, and then I split the table like this. These are how many target spawns I want to put in. You know, I want to make a swarm, so I'm going to need quite a few. So what's that then? 4, 8, 12, 16. So 16 imps is how many I'm aiming to have. I said 12 originally, but I'm basically changing my mind. Something else I'm thinking, though, is, you know, I have described these target spawns as your demons before, but that's not technically that accurate. They're more like spawn locations, really. And so it's good to think of them in that way, because in this encounter I want to have swarms of gargoyles and soldiers and other things. And, well, they can come from the same locations, I think, and so that's what I'm writing here. Also, the pinkies and the heavy demons could probably come from there as well. This way I don't need to get spawn locations for every single type of demon I want to put in, because that takes a lot of time, and, well, coding is such a killer of time. So you can see there I'm done with my swarms, and now I'm preparing coordinates for the cue balls. And, well, I don't need that many cue balls, so about 4 will probably do. Now I'm going back into Doom Eternal to get those coordinates. I sometimes like to use the ice bomb to get the demons off my back. You can kill the demons sometimes, but you want to be careful doing that, because sometimes if you kill all the demons in an encounter, then it might trigger something else, like it might trigger a checkpoint. And the next time you test your encounter, like you reload it, well, it could screw things up for you, like none of the demons might show up, for example, and then you've got to reload the whole level. So I usually prefer to just try and ignore the demons, you know, use God mode or use the ice bomb, maybe kill some of the more annoying demons, but leave some fodder behind, this kind of thing. So here I'm at the back of the room and I'm getting my spawn information. I'm using MH spawn info. Now I alt tab back into Word and I put the coordinates in, Control V. I'm changing the font size of the cells because it's just easier to manage. You know, it looks so messy when everything's so large. What I'm doing here then is I'm moving the orientation information. You know, the orientation information tells the demon which direction to face, basically, and something else probably. And well, with my encounter, I'm having swarms of demons and I want them all to face the player. So I don't really need to duplicate that information. I just need one bit of orientation information, and so I'm putting that there. The rest can just be the position. My screen takes a bit of time to refresh every time I go into Doom Eternal and come out again, but basically all I'm doing is that I'm moving to the right slightly and getting another spawn location, alt-tabbing into Word and pasting it in. And you can see here I've lost patience with this Dread Knight, so I just decimate him. It turns out, luckily for me, that doesn't screw up things in the game for me, so it worked out okay. You can see, though, if you catch it, that the checkpoint was flagged, like a checkpoint was met. But it was okay. Didn't affect anything with my testing. So, you can see here I'm making some more notes here. Like I'm describing some of these locations. Line 1 to signify that this is the line of demons furthest at the back. And that's a good idea because then that can give you an idea of where these spawn locations are. Because chances are later on when you're editing the encounter itself, you're probably going to want to move the demons around a bit. And these notes are really invaluable. So I got line 1 there to signify the demons furthest at the back. Line 2 are the demons that are a little bit forward. There's an obstacle in the middle of this arena, and so line 2 is a little bit different. I can only fit in like 2 on the left of the obstacle and 2 on the right of the obstacle. And so that's what I'm going to make a note of right here. Middle left, middle right, like this. And so I think we can have one more line probably in front of the obstacle. This is a pretty tedious part of the coding process, but it's not the most tedious. The most tedious is coming up. I wonder if other mod makers make as many spawn points as I do. You don't technically have to do this. You could possibly edit the current spawn points instead. But I find doing everything from scratch by yourself, well, it helps you have more control over the spawn points and the target spawn. So it's the way I prefer to do it, even though it's probably more work. Okay, so that's the swarm locations done. Now I want to make locations for the cue balls. I want to make the cue balls close to the player and at different angles so that the player can move and shoot them in different directions to kill the heavy demons. And there's only really enough room for 3 cue balls, so I'm deleting the last one and just have A, B, and C. What I'm doing now then is I'm editing the Z coordinates. As I mentioned in a previous video, when you use the MH spawn info, the position you get is a little bit too high, and when you use that position for the demons, when they spawn in, they end up falling out of the sky onto the ground, and it can look a bit stupid. Sometimes this can cause problems, and sometimes the demons will just die if there's an obstacle or something underneath them, something like this. But most of the time it just looks stupid. Anyway, what you should do with the Z coordinate, because it determines the height of the spawn, you need to reduce it by 1.6 in order to fix that problem. This Z coordinate starts with a minus, and so instead of reducing this 1.6, I'm adding on 1.6, if that makes any sense. Like this before was 105.3, and now it's 106.9. So it makes it lower down. And to help signify that I've done this, I turn the name into italics. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the swarmers. And there I just made a backup of my entities file. Doesn't really make sense at this point because I haven't actually edited the entities file, so Don't know why I did that, but it's a good time to remind you to do that, because that is a really good idea, because it can be quite easy to screw things up, and I make backups just by making a copy like that. So the next thing we need to do is make the target spawn. Turn these coordinates into spawners. And well, wherever possible, it is best to copy a target spawn that is already in the same encounter, because you know that target spawn works because it's in the original game, and so it's better to copy it and edit it, because then that's more likely for yours to work as well. I would also try to aim for similar demons to copy as well. You know, if you want to put in some fodder, well, try to find a fodder demon in the encounter and copy that target spawn and use that one. It's more likely to work that way. I haven't got a choice with this encounter. I've only got one demon, and it's a Dread Knight, nothing like these fodder demons. So I'm just going to try and use that. Hopefully it'll work. It probably will, and we'll see. So this is the target spawn name. I'm copying this, and I'm going to go find it in the code. And there it is. So I copy that, paste it, and now I'm going to give it a title, a kind of bookmark. So TS to stand for target spawn, and then encounter 14 is the name of the encounter I'm editing. And I give it a little note just so I know what it's about. Fodder swarm, like that. Change the name of the target spawn as well. Something I've been doing recently is putting in the name of the encounter in the target spawn name, which I think is a good idea. And there we have 1A as well. I also use letters at the end because the original code doesn't do that. Like, none of the target spawns have like A, B, C, or D or something. So that's another way I can help make sure that I'm not going to be clashing with the code that's already in the game. What I'm doing now then is I'm updating my notes, so I put the name of the target spawn there. Looking down here, you can see this override default. That determines how the demon spawns in. And if you set it to default, then the demon will just magically appear. They'll just sort of blink in. And that's okay if the demon's coming in from around a corner, or perhaps from behind you, because they won't make any noise when they come in, and so they can kind of surprise you, and that can be kind of cool. But if you can see the demon spawn in this way, it looks stupid. It looks like a glitch. And well, here I'm making swarms of demons, and these spawn points are going to be used over and over again, so I'm going to have to change that and make them teleport in instead. Okay, now something else I need to change are the entity devs and the targets. You may remember from a previous video that I talked about target spawns having like permissions for using demons. It basically means that if I want this target spawn to use an imp, but it doesn't have the permission to use it, then it's not going to show up. Like with this target spawn, the only permission it has is a Dread Knight. Now, something you can do is you can add in lots of permissions here. Like I could add in imp, gargoyle, soldier, pinky, whatever, into this target spawn. But that's going to be pretty tedious and long-winded. You know, I'm going to have to duplicate that information over and over again. There is a simpler way of doing it by using a spawn group, and that's what we're going to do today. And so to use a spawn group, I'm going to have to delete this information. And this is how you delete it then. So you notice I'm highlighting the item, making sure you're getting both brackets in, and then you can delete that. Don't forget the number up the top here as well. You want to change that to 0, like that. I also want to delete these targets as well. And it's the same thing really. Delete the item and then change that to be 0. So another tip I want to share with you, I'm going to have to copy this target spawn like 16 times for all of these target spawns. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I change everything that I want to be duplicated in this one target spawn, because otherwise I'm going to have to edit 16 target spawns instead of one. So that's what I'm doing here. You know, all of these spawners are going to be facing the same direction, so I'm going to copy the spawn orientation and put that in now. Okay, I think we're set now, and now I can copy the target spawn itself. First of all, looks like I'm putting in the position for the first one. Fine, that's going to be changing. And that's it, now copying it. So like I said, I'm going to be pasting that 16 times. Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. That's what you want to do. And now what I generally do is I work backwards. So now I'm copying the spawn position for P, pasting that in, and now I'm going to scroll up and change the letter to be P. And then you just do the same for O, and you work backwards like this. This is the part that I would say is the most tedious and boring part of the coding process, because you've got to concentrate quite carefully while you're doing this. Like I mentioned before, if you miss a bracket or you accidentally delete a bracket, then the game will just crash and it won't tell you why. Maybe there's a way of finding out more information about why the game crashes. I don't know yet. By the way, if you don't know why it crashed and the reason is a missing bracket somewhere, then you've got to go look through all this code, all these 16 target spawns for a single missing bracket. And Christ, that can be pretty difficult. I'm getting better at it these days, actually. Like, quite often I'm able to find it and then I manage to fix it. But there may be sometimes when you just have to give up and go back to a previous backup that you made and then do it all over again. And finally we're done with the fodder swarm. So I finished all that, I saved it, and now I'm testing it. You know, weird stuff can sometimes happen when you're coding. You know, sometimes I've changed things like the coordinates of a target spawn, saved it, and then I've gone back into Doom Eternal and tested it, and things go wrong. Like the music doesn't play, walls are missing, ammo is missing, there are no demons. Even when I go back to the main menu and load the level again, same thing happens. The level's basically screwed, and I have no idea why it happens, and I just gotta go back to a previous backup and do it all over again. Really frustrating and annoying when that happens, of course, but that's why it's so important to take backups regularly and regularly test the code as well, because quite often I'm not doing anything unusual or anything new, so I really can't figure out why it does that. We can see here though that the door worked, the demon spawned in, so it's all working fine. So now I'm alt-tabbing out of Doom again. So I've done the fodder swarm, and what I need to do next is the cue balls. So it's the same thing for the cue balls really. I go all the way down to P, the last spawn I did, and I copy and paste it, giving it another title. The same old thing, target spawn encounter 14, and I give it a name, and then I update my notes. Change the name of the entity dev as well, of course. Everything else in the target spawn is fine, I think. It's going to teleport in. I don't really care about the orientation for their cue balls. Doesn't really matter which direction they're going to be facing. So I just copy that, so I'm just changing the spawn positions. I've already copied it 3 times, and so now I'm just doing the same thing, spawn positions C, B, and now A, and then that will be done as well. Okay, so I'm finished with the target spawns now. At the moment though, they don't have any entity devs and they don't have any targets, and so chances are if I put them in the encounter, nothing's going to happen. No demons are going to show up because they haven't got any permissions. So what I need to do now is make a target spawn group. Now, like I said before, wherever possible, I think it's best to copy current code in the level. And so what I want to do is find another spawn group to copy and edit. I've gone back into my bookmarks document then, because I've made a little list of the types of code. We were just making target spawn, and there's the name of that target spawn. All we want now is target spawn group. So I'm going to copy that and then find it in the Super Gore Nest level. And there we go, here's a spawn group. So I'm going to copy that. Give it a title. I'm going to make a spawn group for the fodder swarm. Instead of TS, I'm going to use SG for spawn group. Give it a name as usual. Now I'm updating my notes, and you can see that I'm putting it in group. Something else I do is I just copied the spawn position of the first target spawn, and I'm going to replace the position in the spawn group. I'm not entirely sure what exactly this does, to be honest, but I'm copying a spawn group from another encounter somewhere completely different in the level, and I think sometimes that does cause problems if you don't update it. So putting the spawn position here just tells the game that this spawn group is roughly in this area, I think. Something like this. What I want to do now then, you can see here in this spawn group there are spawners. And it says there's 5 of them, and this is the list of the target spawn that are in this group. So I want to replace these spawners with the target spawn I've got here in my table. So I'm just copying that first name and I'm going to replace them. And there's 16 in the table, so I'm going to need 16 spawners. So there I have 5. I can copy the 5 and paste that 3 times. It'll give me 15. 5, 10, 15. Take away 2 equals 16. No, it doesn't. It equals 13. That's just me doing dumb maths. And I realize it when I get to the end here. This is also something nice about naming your target spawn this way by using these letters, because it's quite easy then to change these names. So I'm going to put in the rest up to P. Don't forget to change the numbers here as well. If you don't get this right, the game won't crash, but some of these target spawns will probably not show up. And the same thing for this number as well. That needs to be updated. But again, if it's wrong, the game probably won't crash, but some target spawn won't show up. Okay, so going back to what I was saying about permissions, this is where we need a line of code right here to tell the game that all the targets spawn in this group, what permissions they have. And so what you can do is link this group to a target spawn parent, is what I think it's called. I'm trying to remember the code here, and there we have it, target spawn parent. But now I need to find a target spawn parent, and I definitely can't remember it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for this code exactly, and it'll probably take me to one, and here we have one. So I can copy that, go back. By the way, with Notepad++, if you hold down Shift and click on Find Next, it will find the previous one. It will go back instead. And that's what I just did there, because I went back to my group. This is my spawn group again. So I paste that in. And just to show you then, I'm going to go find this target spawn parent to show you what's in it and what it's doing. And there it is. So you can notice here, this is the type of the code, the class, id target spawn parent. These target spawn parents, I think the purpose of them is basically to give permissions, and you can see they're all here, entity devs. And here you got zombies, you got imps, soldiers, pinkies, you got all of the ones that I want for my encounter, so that's great. I know other map makers, they make a kind of master target spawn parent, which, yeah, sounds like a good idea to me. I have tried to do it before, but it didn't work for some reason. But I think if you just copy a target spawn parent like this one, or just use this one and add to it, it'll probably work. And so that way, with every spawn group you make, you can just refer to this target spawn parent, and then you don't have to worry about permissions anymore. And you can see this one even includes cue ball, so it's great. I can use this for all of the spawn groups of my encounter. It's also got the targets. It's all there. So I go back to my encounter, or my spawn group. There it is. That's copied in, that's fine. Now I'm copying it again, because I need another spawn group for my cue balls. Now, something about my cue balls is that what I want them to do is I want to have 3 cue balls that independently respawn every time they die. So I shoot one of them, it dies, it then respawns instantly in the same place. Now, to do that, I'm going to need 3 separate spawn groups, one for each of these targets. Because if I put all of these target spawns in the same group and then try doing it, what will happen is that when I kill one of the cue balls, it might respawn in one of the other positions, and so then you end up with 2 or 3 cue balls all in exactly the same place, and that's not what I want. So that's what I'm going to do here. I need to reduce this down to 1 and just have cue ball 1A. So there we have it. Don't forget to change the number of the spawners there. The first spawner is always 0, item 0. And there we have it. So now I'm going to copy and paste this another 2 times and update the letters. Okay, looks like I'm done with the spawn groups then. I'm just updating my notes to reflect that. So now that I've finished the target spawns and the spawn groups, I can finally get to the interesting stuff where I go to the encounter and actually orchestrate the encounter. Before I do that though, I did Control S to save it, because I want to test it, and oh shit, it's crashed. Something's not right. It's not getting past 0%. That's bad news. It's like the blue screen of death, and we have an error message. What does it say? Failed to pass, blah blah blah, God knows what that means. Don't understand it. But Doom Eternal's crashed, you can see it's closed. Oh shit. What does that mean then? It's probably a punctuation problem, like I'm missing a bracket or something like this. So now I'm going to have to look through the code that I added from the last time I tested it and see if there's any missing brackets or something, and that's what I'm doing here. Thankfully, I think the only thing I added was spawn groups, so I just need to check the spawn groups. That's not so bad. Maybe I can do it. And aha, I found it. Semicolon was missing there at the end of the target spawn parent. So I'm adding in the semicolons. Hopefully that's all that is wrong and it'll be okay now. So I'm saving that, and now I'm going to load Doom Eternal again to test it. Another little pro tip for you. When you're modding Doom Eternal, go offline with Steam. It's a real pain in the ass to wait for it to connect. I always forget to do it, but it's a good idea to do it. And hey, looks like it's worked. It went from 0 up to 80. So it looks like that was what the problem was. Is everything else working? We got sound, the door works, the spawn's coming in. Yeah, cool. Everything's working. Go back to the code then and start editing the encounter. So something I just noticed in my notes is that I want to have extra heavy cannon ammo. And I didn't plan for that. I forgot. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm preparing the positions of where I want the ammo to be. I want the ammo to be close to the player so that they don't have to run out to go get it and they can just stay in their little hole. Right now I'm trying to find code for ammo. The type of code that it's called is something to do with prop, and there it is. There you see class id prop 2. That's the type of code. This code, though, you can see is for a radiation suit refill. So that's not what I want. I want to find heavy cannon bullets. But I copied the type of code. I copied the class to help me find it. And this looks like it. You see bullets there. If you scroll down, here you can see it's heavy cannon. So yeah, this is the right one. So I'm going to copy this. And give it a title as usual. For stuff like this, I like to call it prop. And update my notes as well. But I'm doing things a bit backwards here. What I really should do is get the coordinates first. So I'm going to go back into the game. Get to my encounter. Like I said, I want the heavy cannon ammo to be like right next to the player, really convenient. So right here will do. MH spawn info. And I'm just making some notes here where the ammo is, to the right of the player or to the left of the player. And that'll do. I think 4 bits of ammo is enough. I'm going to change the Z coordinates as well. I don't know what would happen if you didn't do that. Maybe the ammo would be floating in midair. But well, why take the chance, you know? Change the name of the ammo to make it unique and not clash with some other code. And now I just copy in the location information, which you have right there. Something else I want to do with this ammo, though, is that I want it to respawn so that the player always has ammo there and he's not going to run out. And I forgot the respawning code, so I've gone back into my bookmarks documents because I saved it and it's right there. So that's telling it to respawn after 8,000 milliseconds. I'm changing it to 10,000 milliseconds, which means 10 seconds. So after 10 seconds, it'll respawn. Copying the ammo another 3 times, and then I'm going to update the coordinates, the letters, as per usual. Something about making ammo or these props, these are not bound to encounters, so they're just going to be there regardless of the encounter. Okay, so I've done that. I got my ammo now. I just saved it and I'm going to test it again. Everything was spawning, so I'm assuming it works. So first of all, you can notice in my plan that I have heavy battle music, but this encounter doesn't have any music, I noticed. So I want to put in some music, and what I'm doing is I'm searching my code, my previous encounters, for some music code, because I have done it before, and so I'm looking into encounter 12. There we have it. And here we go, here's some music code. I'm going to copy that, put it in my current encounter. And we can put it in there. Here's the music. It's set to heavy. I actually changed my mind here and I wanted something else. So what you can do is you can delete that part and then type in the underscore, this thing, and then it will give you the options. The options that are already in the level, already in the code. And so you can see here, ambient, heavy, level, light, and I choose light. I also changed this string here. I'm not sure how necessary that is really, but I change it anyway. So at the moment the encounter starts with this music, which basically means when you start the encounter and when you get there, it's going to start playing like light battle music. After that, there's going to be make AI aware of player, which I think does basically what it sounds like. You know, any demons that are there, maybe they're not looking at you, but with this code, they'll start attacking you straight away. Like, they'll know you're there, sort of thing. And I think that the way this works is that you can put it before the spawn that you're putting in, and then that will work, like they've already done here. So after the make AI aware, I want to put in my first swarm. Currently there was single spawn AI, but that's just for one demon. I want to put in a bunch, a swarm of them. For that I use spawn AI. So I put in the type of demon that I want. I changed my mind here, and instead of imps, I want to start with zombies. Just to ease the player into it a bit so they're not like swamped as soon as they get there. I'm just updating my notes to remind me what's going on. How many? 12. What I mean to write actually is 16, because there's 16 of them. But I'll fix that later. I want to copy the group, the spawn group, and put that in there. Yeah, there's meant to be 16. And I'm also going to change the group label. I'm going to give it a label fodder. And you'll see why that's useful to do later. Now I'm adding in await AI remaining, because what I want to happen is when all of the fodder, all of the zombies, or maybe most of them are dead, I then want something else to happen. I then want another swarm to come in. And so you can use wait AI remaining, encounter spawn any AI when there are no AI left. And specifically, no fodder, no AI that's got the label fodder. What happens after that then? Well, I'm just going to put in a wait of a few seconds. Makes it seem more natural. Makes the encounter flow a bit better. Now I'm copying all that code and putting it in again, because I just want the same code, you know, another swarm, this time 16 imps. And once again, once all the imps are dead, a couple of seconds wait, and then another swarm, this time of gargoyles. Yeah. Do it again, the next swarm of hell soldiers. I changed things a bit here. Like you see, instead of when all of the gargoyles or all of the imps are dead, I want there to be still some left over. Like here we have when there are 6 demons that all have the label fodder, then do something else, then spawn in another swarm of demons. Now, because the gargoyles, the imps, and the zombies all have the label fodder, this means when there are 6 of them, so there might be 6, so there might be 2 imps, 2 gargoyles, 2 whatevers. When that's done, then do something else. This makes it pretty convenient, because otherwise I'd have to put in all of the demons that I want to be in there into this little bit. But here I can just have encounter spawn any and the label, and then that will work. And here I'm putting in the heavies as well. But before the heavies come in, I want to put in my cue balls. And to do that, I'm going to need some other code. I'm going to need maintain AI count instead. So I put in the cue ball into this field. And like I mentioned before, for my cue balls to work, for each of them to independently respawn, I'm going to need to copy this 3 times, have 3 maintain AI counts, and each one's going to have 1 in it. And each spawn group that it's going to draw from is going to be 1A, then 1B, then 1C, like that. So here we have, I want 1 cue ball from this maintain AI count. How many times do you want the cue ball to respawn is what this means. If you put in -1, then it means infinite. It'll keep going until you tell the encounter to stop in the code. Minimum spawn delay and maximum spawn delay is talking about how many seconds between the respawns. So I kill the cue ball and then I'll have to wait at least 5 seconds up to 10 seconds for the next one to respawn. That's what that means. This is too long, so I'm going to change that. I don't want to make it too short though, because I have found that with cue balls, if you make it too short, then when you've killed one cue ball, the other cue ball spawns in instantly, and as the first cue ball dies, it ends up killing the second cue ball as well, and so then you just get this sort of infinite explosion of cue balls flying everywhere, which is no good, so you need a few seconds spawning. We have this integer as well, which is minimum AI for respawn, so that means when should the respawning start? I wanted to start when there are no cue balls, when the cue ball is 0. Now I'm putting in the spawn group. For my cue balls to work as well, I need to give each of these maintain AI counts a unique label as well. So I'm going to have QA, and then with the next one QB, QC, like that. Okay, so my code is done now. So basically when I kill one cue ball, I'll have to wait 1 second or 2 seconds for the next one to spawn in. Now I need to copy this and paste it 3 times, and then change the letters. What's next then? So now the heavies is what I want to put in. But I also want to have another wait, like a few seconds, because I want the player to see the cue balls and then figure out what's going to happen now before they're overwhelmed with heavies. So here we're going to have a swarm of pinkies. But what I'm doing here is something different. Instead of spawn AI, I'm using staggered AI spawn. Staggered AI spawn is just used for to gradually spawn in a group of demons. So here I'm making it pinky. I want 16 pinkies, which is ridiculous, so I change it to 8. Put in the spawn group again. And you can see here, minimum spawn, maximum spawn. This means one pinky will spawn in. Then the next one will spawn in either 1 second or up to 5 seconds. I'm changing these to 3 and 6. So that means that they come in more gradually. It is all it is. Okay, now I'm copying these codes and I'm gonna do the same for the rest of the heavies. And I want to add in wait AI remaining as well. So when there are only 2 pinkies left, then I want the next set of heavies to come in. I also went back and changed the last fodder swarm wait AI to be 0. This way, all of the fodder have to be dead before the cue balls come in, which is what I want. And now I'm just doing the other heavies. Next up is Mancubus. I think 8 Mancubus is a little bit too much, so I make it 6 instead. Copy all this code again. The same code that I want. Here, you know, the labels are important. Like I'm giving these ones heavies because actually the cue balls are in as well. Like if I didn't have this label, then this too would be including the cue balls, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm making it heavy so it only applies to the heavies. What else am I going to have? Spiders? Arachnotron? Yeah. And the last heavy. I think I want the spiders to be the last heavy, actually, so I'm going to change the previous one to Hell Knights. Okay, so I basically finished my encounter. To close it though, to finish it, I want to change the music so it stops the light battle music. So I'm copying the music code up here. And I'm going to put it at the bottom of my code and then change it to ambient. This way, because you notice here we have wait AI remaining 0 of all the demons. So when all of them are dead, the music then cools down. And then you can see what happens after that is the door opens, saves a checkpoint, and it's like that. Okay, looks like my encounter is ready for testing. When you're going to test then, you need to update all these item numbers, put them in sequential order, 4, 5, all the way down. This is a pretty tedious part of the process as well. Some of the encounters I made have been like 80 items long, and so you can imagine every time I want to test it, I have to do all this, make sure they're all in order. Christ, that takes a long time. Something worth noting, though, is that I think the game loads each item in the order that it's labeled. So, it'll load 0 first, then 1, then 2, then 3, regardless of where it is in the encounter, in the list. So what I'm saying is that if you want to test the beginning of your encounter, well, you could just make sure that you've got the item numbers correct for the beginning of the encounter. And so long as the items after that are higher than the numbers are higher than the beginning ones, it won't cause a problem. Not for testing the beginning of the encounter anyway. After the beginning of the encounter in the game, yeah, maybe things don't work as they're supposed to. So you can do that if you just want to test. But I'm doing the whole thing. I want to test the entire encounter, so I have to do this. So I have to put them all in. Okay, that's 32 is the last one. The list also includes 0, so in total there are 33. And that's what you have to type in up there. Looks like we're good, so now I'm going to save and then test it. There we go. Okay, the ammo is there. Ammo looks a bit odd. It's pointing at an angle, and I figure out later why that happened. It's because when I was putting in the ammo, I gave it the orientation information as well. And at the time when I was doing the MH spawn info, I was looking down, and so that's why the ammo is angled. I'll fix that later. The zombies spawned in no problem though, so that's good to see. There's just a few zombies left, and then the imps came in. Good, good. And now the gargoyles. You can notice they're all facing the right way as well. When I'm just testing, I often use the Unmaker and the BFG to get through things quickly. Right, there is a bit of a wait, and then here are the cue balls. And here are the heavies. I think they're spawning in a bit too close, though. The idea of it is working the way I like, though. I'm using the cue balls to blow them all up. That thing in the middle's getting in the way of my cue balls. You can hear that music as well, right? Light battle music. The music's not stopping though, and that's because there's still cue balls there. And there you go, the music finished. Something else that's a bit of a problem though is that the cue balls are still spawning in infinitely, so I need to fix that. Something else I think will help this encounter though is I want to put in a couple of barrels on either side of that pillar. I think that'll make it a bit more fun, a bit less repetitive. So now I'm just going to add in the coordinates for the barrels. Now I'm getting the second coordinate. Now I'm trying to find a barrel, but I give up pretty quickly and just go into my bookmarks documents because I have a copy of one there. Trouble is though with this one is that I took this from Hell on Earth. You know, you got Barge here, and well, you can see there, Hell. Like I said before, wherever possible, try to copy code from the same level and from the same encounter as well, like as specific as you can. It's more likely to work that way. So rather than copying this code, I'm going to try and copy something in it to find the same type of barrel in the Gore Nest. So I'm going to copy this part because the code in the Super Gore Nest is probably going to have that. And there we have it. There's a barrel. And this is a barrel that I made before. You can see this is my code. So I know this barrel works, so I'm going to copy that. Give it a title, a bookmark, change the name as usual. Update your notes. So here I'm just going to change the spawn position. You don't need to put in the orientation, and if you don't, I think the barrel's just going to show up straight up. I also forgot to change the Z coordinates, so have them on the ground, and that's what I'm doing there. So yeah, I'm not including the orientation information this time, so this way they won't be pointing at some weird angle. Now I'm going to go find my ammo and fix that as well. I'll just delete the orientation. That should fix it. And now we can test it again. Oh. Okay, so I did it for 2 of the ammo. I forgot about the other 2. The barrels worked. They came in. I changed the respawn to be 10 seconds, I think, for the barrels. A bit of a problem, though. I'm changing my save here because the save I was using had the Praetor suit point for respawning barrels, and I found that when you have that suit point, the barrels won't respawn, the ones that I'm making here. I'm just fixing the ammo here for the machine gun. So I changed my save to another save where I don't have that spawn, where I don't have that Praetor suit point. And so that ought to work now. The barrels, I mean. Something I wasn't happy with the encounter then is that the heavies were too far forward. They need to be further back. So I'm making another spawn group just for the heavies. Update my notes here. And this is where your notes are really helpful because you see I made these descriptions of where the locations are. Well, I want the heavies to be further back. So basically, I just want A to H, I think, because the front line are over here. So I go into my heavy swarm group and I'll just delete the rest of them. So it's just A to H. And that should do it. Now I need to copy this spawn group and update the encounter itself. And now I'm going to test it. Okay, the ammo's looking good. With this save, I don't have infinite ammo either, and so I can test the ammo better too. Are the barrels gonna respawn? Yep, there they are. They respawned. I notice I'm running out of ammo too quickly. I think I'll have to make the heavy cannon ammo respawn more quickly. Yeah. I'm gonna have to go out and fetch some ammo, I think. And the heavies are spawning further back. Yeah, looks like it's working better. You still gotta stay on top of them, move quickly. Oh shit. The Hell Knights have broken my defenses. I'm kind of panicking now, I think. Ah, what the hell? That goddamn pillar. It's getting in the way. Okay. So now I'm just changing the time for the ammo, make it 5 seconds instead of 10 seconds. That ought to fix that. So, like I mentioned before, the cue balls are going to be respawning infinitely, and that needs to stop. And to do that, you use this code, stop maintaining AI count. It's pretty simple. You just, I can just put in encounter any, so that stops any spawn that is respawning. I updated all that. And now I'm going to test it for real without God mode, just to see how easy or how hard it is. Hey, you can't touch me. Haha. Okay, now you've hit me. These hell soldiers are tougher. That's pretty cool. I might add in a swarm of mechs as well. Or a mixture, mechs and shields. Shield soldiers. Okay. Here we go. Shit. Now, I don't know if I like these Hell Knights. I think the encounter works better with like ranged enemies. Aha! No more demons, the music dies down, and it moves on. So that worked. Okay, so that's basically the end of the encounter and the end of the tutorial. I'm still going to tweak the encounter a bit, like I'm changing the Hell Knight. Here I'm looking at a list of the demons I'm allowing myself to choose from. I changed it to Spectre, but I think I might change it again, actually, to Revenant, maybe. Something else I do, after the stop maintain AI count code, I add in another code, damage AI, and I tell the game to kill the cue balls once all the other demons are dead. Because that way I can kill all of the heavies, and then once they're all dead, the Cuballs then die, and then the encounter can end, and you don't have to wait for the player to kill the Cuballs. So that's a useful bit of code. I will leave a link to my bookmarks documents as well, so you can have a look at that. And I'll talk to you later.